everybody. Welcome back to Wisconsin Weather Experts. It feels like it should be Friday, but it's Friday's dress rehearsal, as our good friend Nicola would say.
That is right. Yeah, we definitely like to get prepared. Some people maybe even go out on the town a little bit on a Thursday.
Yeah, why not?
Although it's kind of got the stay-at-home vibes right now.
It does.
Right?
It's napping vibes
Yeah,
today.
napping vibes, comfort food vibes. So if you're cooking up some chili or some soup later on, the weather definitely influenced your menu choice. We've got some video from Dodgeville of fog yet again today. This is from earlier this morning, but that fog has been really stubborn of late. At least the fog this morning didn't also come along with the freezing temperatures, making it freezing fog.
True.
But the visibility was pretty bad as you looked farther west. Not as bad here in our area, but of course we had the same thing yesterday morning, along with those freezing temperatures. And yesterday's stuff, the visibility at one point was near zero in Dodge County.
It was, and we had a dense fog advisory yesterday morning in those northwestern communities. Today we didn't have any, but even this morning they were as low as 2 miles in places like Waukesha, which is just west of Milwaukee. And even at this hour, visibilities are reduced at least a little bit. There are a lot of spots that still have just this thin layer of haze and fog that won't get out of here because the wind is light and those temperature dew point combinations, all the ingredients are still here.
Exactly. It's a very damp day
Very
out there.
damp day, yes.
But we are fortunate because other parts of our country and other parts of the world are much, much more active. In fact, take a look at this. Part of the Desert Sky Mall ceiling fell down. This is in Phoenix here during the last night's storm, sending shoppers and workers, of course, running for safety. Workers at a dental office there where this happened tell our sister station in Fox Phoenix they heard noises, saw the ceiling cracking, then they just evacuated and they got out just minutes before the whole thing collapsed. What an absolute mess there. It was one of those drop ceilings, you know, where they have the wire frame and then the like little panels that are in there. Completely gave way, separated from the mall's main roof, which is still intact, so that's good news there. Firefighters say a severed water line covered the flooding through, or caused rather the flooding through multiple businesses, creating extensive damage, but it was all happening during the course of a storm to make it extra, you know, scary. I mean, I'm sure everybody assumed the water was coming from the storm. Dental office workers tell us that it looks like a war zone in there right now. Us being our partners over in Phoenix, our station there.
Very active. We were just saying before the show started, very active in Phoenix this year.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have tons of stories from our partners there, Fox 10 and Phoenix, so we appreciate all of that, and there's more to say.
Yeah, it doesn't end there. There's is video sent to us from Ashley Smith in Avondale. The streets in the neighborhood completely flooded from all of the rain, again, in Arizona. So you can just see that that was a doozy of a system that moved through.
And remember, this is Arizona, where, you know, typically you don't talk about this. I know they have their monsoonal rain periods and stuff, but they have been far more active than usual. Then staying with our Fox 10 crew in Arizona, we go up a little bit higher. Remember, there's mountains there.
Look at that
guy. He seems happy about the snow, right? Well, the Fox 10 crew were up in Flagstaff. They shot some video at NAU, Northern Arizona University. Wasn't enough to give the students there a snow day, which I'm not sure you get at university.
I was going to say.
But whatever. It wasn't enough for it anyway, so they did have to kind of trudge through the snow. Shows the difference the elevation can make, obviously.
Goodness, I don't even think in our 20-inch lake effect snow events in college we got
well, that's right. You were in the worst possible spot for snow.
You are trudging your way to class.
Down there in Valpo, you just kind of got the snowshoes on and went, right?
Yeah, exactly.
From there, we go to Oklahoma.
Yeah, check out these hail pictures. That is not small.
No.
These were from viewers in the area from Cleveland, Oklahoma, where there was some severe weather yesterday. So again, just cycling through some of these pictures, you can see how large they were. And they've still got rain ongoing at this point in time. It's not as strong as what it was yesterday to produce some of this type of hail, but again, that probably warranted a severe thunderstorm at some point.
And the viewer that sent this in, Shasta Wilson there, she said they were actually on the ground for quite a bit before she picked them up. So they likely melted significantly from the size they were when they fell. Still have some wet conditions as we go back a little farther west, but north this time up to Northern California. They've been dealing with a lot of rain in California too. The rain just hasn't let up, but unlike the storm there last week, at least this time around this morning, it wasn't so windy. The air was calm. There was no wind advisories or anything for the Bay area. No advisories or warnings for the Sierras there, the mountains, of course. That area has been incredibly active because of the atmospheric river storm that we've been following for the last few days, and they continued with that this morning as well.
Yeah, and now happening right now overseas, a volcano eruption in Indonesia is causing evacuations and interrupting air travel as far away as Australia.
Wow.
So Mount Semeru started erupting yesterday. So this is clearly time-lapse video, but still, I mean, you could see spewing hot ash, smoke, and gas more than 6,500 feet into the sky. Now, it's prompted the Indonesian government to issue a level 4 alert, the highest of its kind. That means landslides, earthquakes, and other seismic activity, all a possibility. That's some pretty dramatic video.
Yeah, wow, amazing that the camera caught all that for sure. Yeah. And of course, that part of the world has been very active with the typhoons as well. True. So they're dealing with one thing after the other, and the flooding, and we were talking about the flood mitigation issues and corruption scandals they had there as well. All right, back here at home. After you saw all that, you're going to love this forecast because it's really just kind of a mild gray day.
I know. It feels like such a dreary day, but overall it is very calm and very quiet. Now, we are watching a cold front that's going to eventually move through parts of Wisconsin. It's inching its way through northwestern parts of our state right now. That's what will actually allow a high pressure to move in, clouds to eventually clear. So heading towards the weekend especially, most of the state's looking at a really, really nice forecast. It is active in other spots, though. In fact, just towards the south of us, the southern plains, where a couple of different systems are bringing heavy rainfall. There's still some flooding issues, especially across the state of Texas. But again, you can see just how active it is across the southern plains. Otherwise, the west coast, I mean, we talked about that atmospheric river in Southern California. That's just storm system after storm system impacting the same area over and over again. So you can see another low pressure right over the LA area, bringing more rain as well as snow still to some of those higher elevations. Now, looking towards the south, you can see a large area of some rain extending from parts of Texas and the southern plains all the way now into parts of Kentucky as well as Tennessee. And now this will continue to stay south of us here in Wisconsin, but even tomorrow, it'll nudge its way northward a bit, so it will still keep a bit of cloud cover in some of our southern communities for Friday. But our forecast here is still shaping up to be pretty nice. Here's a look at those flooding headlines. So you can see a pretty large area under an overall flood watch, but all these red boxes, including near Dallas, and then towards the south, those are flash flood warnings. That means a lot of rain in a short amount of time causing flooding. So you can just tell from looking at the spots under these headlines that there is still very heavy rain falling at this hour, and it has been falling for quite some time. There is another marginal risk for this area too for some stronger thunderstorms. We talked about some of the hail that parts of Oklahoma saw yesterday. They are still in that same threat for today. In fact, it's extended into parts of Arkansas and primarily across Oklahoma and Texas. Now out towards the west, in addition to rain, there are still ongoing winter weather advisories for those higher elevations. You can also see them towards the east a little bit more, but really no change in the forecast for the southwest. They have still been dealing with days of periodic showers and thunderstorms and snow, again, at some of those mountainous regions, or for some of those mountainous regions. And you can see that too on satellite and radar. Nothing major, but it is just the same weather over and over again in those same spots. Now back closer to home, it's just the cloud cover across Wisconsin. There is some rain up towards the north across the UP, maybe the Duluth area, or more so towards the south, a little bit more of those sprinkles. Here's that cold front. So this is going to continue to work its way through our area. It's what's going to drop our temperatures maybe just a touch tomorrow, and then it's going to allow clouds to clear. Oftentimes behind a cold front, as we see that different air mass moving in, we see clouds clearing on out. Just expect them to stick around for the rest of this afternoon. Notice overnight, again, we see just what we talked about. Now for Friday, a lot of spots are going to wake up to sunshine, but because we're still going to have some rain towards the south, I think especially Madison, Milwaukee southward will have a bit more cloud cover Friday afternoon and evening. We'll still see sunshine though throughout Saturday, throughout Sunday, and even a good chunk of Monday will be quiet and dry. It's Monday night into Tuesday that we have our next rain chance here locally. So get excited for some pretty nice weather for the days that are the busiest for all of us, right? Saturday and Sunday. Now, temperatures towards the north today staying a bit cool in the low 40s, but those of us towards the south should still manage to see some upper 40s to low 50s. And then we have more of that ahead for the next couple of days. Now, that cold front might drop us just a touch for Friday, but then by Saturday, we're right back to 50 and then continue to climb a bit more Sunday on into Monday. And I know we've talked about this before, but we're to that point in time where temperatures in the 50s are actually well above average. On the opposite end of this, I know this is plastered over social media already, but after Tuesday's rain, and Rob, you can speak to this as well, it does look increasingly likely that we drop quite a bit in the temperature department for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it gets a little chilly for Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving weekend. I think we might bounce back a little bit after that. Yeah. And then it does look like the longer range for the winter, December, January, maybe even January, February, gets a little bit colder. So check out our winter outlook. It's on fox6now.com. You can get all the details on that. And hopefully before the snow flies, you've raked your leaves.
Yes, I sure hope so. But this weekend's a good one to do it if you haven't. Now, the City of Milwaukee residents now have until the end of Sunday, so that's November 30th, as in a couple days from now, to rake their leaves into the street for pickup by the Department of Public Works. The leaf rakeout period has been extended to provide residents additional time to rake leaves from trees that are experiencing a late leaf drop. This extension allows 15 additional days from the ordinance's original November 15th deadline. The city's leaf collection operations, on average, keep 15,000 tons of leaves per year out of our waterways and sewer system, and instead allow the leaves to be converted to nutrient-rich compost. I love that our area does this. Residents are encouraged to mulch leaves on their property also to add healthy organic matter to their lawns and gardens, which means just essentially mowing over them.
Yeah, just mow them over and maybe go across it twice to get them all finely ground up and into the soil. Yeah, next year all the your grass and the pollinators will like you as well, because there's be some more material for them as well. We have more material for you as well. Stick around. We'll be right back with more Wisconsin weather experts.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Wisconsin Weather Experts right here on Fox Local, as well as our Fox 6 YouTube page.
That's right. And, this time of year, we start talking about a wide variety of precipitation because we get into that, sleet and that mixed precip, the wintry mess, and, of course, snow. Yes. And we then start talking about how much water does it take to make snow. Everybody's fascinated. Oh, if this rain was all snow, how much? Yeah. How much? Tom loves to talk about that stuff, too. So let's let him talk about it.
Well, we've all shoveled different types of snow, right? We've all shoveled the concrete, heavy type snow that's really tough on our backs. Sometimes it's the light, fluffy variety of snow. But what causes the difference? And it's not just shoveling from an impact standpoint from the heavy versus the light type of snow, but weather forecasting also plays a role when it comes to snowfall accumulation, because the fluffier snows pile up more than the heavy wet snow. So let's peel back the layers here a little bit on what causes this, and then also we'll get into the weather forecasting standpoint of this. So as we look at what we call snow ratios, we look at a couple of different things. Number one, from a meteorology standpoint, we are looking at how much of that type of snow that's falling will equate to 1 inch of water if you were to melt it down. So let's talk a little more about this here. At 34 degrees, that's pretty warm when you're talking about snow falling in that type of air. Well, what happens with warmer air? It can hold more water. Warmer air holds more moisture. That's why on a summer day, for example, you can really get that humidity spiking, right? Where in the wintertime, cold air is much drier, right? So at 34 degrees, that's somewhat moist. That can hold more water in the air, and as a result, the snow is heavier when you're at a temperature of 34 degrees. It's a wetter snow. So you see the 5 inches here. That would be 5-to-1 snow ratio, meaning if you were to take that wet snow and melt it down, it would take 5 inches of this type of snow to equal 1 inch of liquid water out of it. So that would be the concrete type heavy snow that we're talking about. Well, now at 30 degrees, that's what we would call a typical snow. That's a 10-to-1 snow ratio. So if you were to take 10 inches of this type of snow and melt it down, it would equate to 1 inch of liquid water. That's kind of a standard consistency. Well, now look at 18 degrees. Very cold, very dry air mass, right? Well, 20 inches of snow, in that case, the powdery snow or the dry snow, it would take 20 inches of that to melt down to 1 inch of liquid water. So you see how the fluffy snow has much less moisture in it than the real heavy, wet concrete type snow. So again, that is snow ratios here. So a 5-to-1 means that it is a very wet concrete type snow. 10-to-1 is more of a typical type consistency. 20-to-1 would be the very fluffy, you could take a brush and just brush that snow away because there's not a lot of water in that snow. So that's what we're talking about with snow ratios and the consistency, which again, we feel most so when we're shoveling, right? But now let's talk about the weather forecasting side of it, because we're not just forecasting, hey, how much snow is going to fall out of this storm. What we're looking at is how much moisture is in this storm. So this is just an example here from our Sky Vision Plus model. So let's just take Milwaukee, for instance, 0.08 of liquid. So if this came in all as rain, if it fell all as rain, it would fall, according to this model, with 0.08 of liquid. So less than 1/10 of an inch of liquid out of it. Well, how much snow is the model calling for? Well, let's take a look. So in this case, it's calling for about 1 inch of snow out of this. So you take the 1 inch, divide it by the 0.8, and that is how you get your snow ratio. So in that case, take 1 divided by 0.8, you get 12.5. So that's 12.5-to-1 snow ratio. Little bit drier than the typical snow. So that's what we do in meteorology, is we look to see what the snow ratio is. Why do we do that? Again, a drier, fluffier snow will pile up more. A heavier wet snow will compact more because there is more moisture in it. So we're not just looking at computer model data from a weather forecasting standpoint and saying, well, this model says 6 inches of snow, this model says 1.8 inches of snow. It's much deeper than that. And it goes back to the moisture content. And we're looking at atmospheric profiles to take a look at what's going on. Also, Lake Michigan, of course, plays a role as well. We could have a case where you have a wetter snow in Milwaukee with the wind off the lake and drier inland because you don't have as much lake moisture inland. So smaller scale activities play a role here as well. But again, I'll take you back to, again, the snow ratios as warmer air holds more water, and as a result, can result in a wetter snow. Drier air is colder, or colder air is drier, and as a result, has that fluffy snow. So air masses and what the snow is falling into in terms of air masses can make a big difference in not only how much snow we could get, but how heavy that snow is to shovel.
Well, it is Winter Weather Awareness Week here in Wisconsin, so it's good to have those refreshers on how we forecast and how it's impactful.
As you're digging out from the snow, it's good to think, oh, this is could have been a lot of rain, or not as much rain. And of course, that's something we talk about a lot. We also say this a lot: bridges ice first.
They do.
You see signs that say that, in fact.
Right, exactly. And that's, of course, very impactful as you are traveling, whether it be later on at night or during your early morning commute. Meteorologist Holly Baker breaks down the science of why bridges freeze first.
During winter, whenever a winter weather advisory is issued, have you ever wondered why they always emphasize that the bridges freeze first? Well, let's dig into a little bit of science here. Most of the roads all lose heat pretty quickly and evenly. However, some of the roads are actually connected to the ground. So if you have a regular road that's connected to the ground, that's going to give it more of a heating source, meaning it's going to insulate a little bit of that heat. But whenever we evaluate those bridges, the bridges have cold air at least above and below, so it doesn't really have a heating source, and that causes the bridges to at least lose their heat a little bit faster than those roads that are at least connected to a ground source. And that is why, in fact, the bridges will freeze first.
There you go.
Great explanation there. And overpasses too.
Yes.
On-ramps, off-ramps, like Holly was saying, anything that's exposed on all sides.
Yeah.
All right, so with that in mind, and this cold air that we have recently had, not so much today, but recently have had, we got into a pretty interesting chat about cold air on our latest edition of our regional weather podcast called The Isobar. Take a look.
I mean, Emily, you weren't alone in Chicago. There was so many people well south of you that froze too.
Yeah, that's right. It really just wasn't the Midwest. Almost the whole eastern half of the U.S. was dealing with cooler than average conditions. But the pictures, the images, the videos that were coming out of Florida with those falling iguanas I can't imagine seeing that, because it seems so out of place, which it is. And that's, they're not used to it. So I did a little bit of digging and reading about it. And essentially, anytime that the temperatures drop into the 40s, cold-blooded animals, such as iguanas, their muscles don't work the same way, so they can't hold on to the trees. So that's why, unfortunately, they fall out. But that doesn't mean that they passed away. Doesn't mean they're going to be sleeping forever. They do kind of come back to life, if you will, once the sun comes out and they can warm up their body.
Yeah, important when watching that video to remember the iguana, once it warmed up, is fine, but the thud was just,
wow.
What? And so, yes, Emily did a deep dive on that. Talked about many other things. Check out the Isobar on our YouTube page, or, of course, right on this very own Fox Local right here. We're back with more Wisconsin weather experts in 2 minutes. Stick around.
Welcome back, everybody, to Wisconsin Weather Experts right here on Fox Local. Cute video to end the show. Check out what was seen out in Waukesha County.
You guys, look. It's definitely Christmas now. That's Santa's deer.
You had to hear the little kid say that. I love it.
Santa's deer.
So this is cool. A white buck trotted through a woman's yard in the town of Ottawa, and it was the second time Melissa Spellman spotted the buck. She has said that she hasn't seen him since. Wisconsin law protects all white deer, and this buck does look different than an albino deer, which is rare. Albinos are about 1 in 30,000 births and have pink eyes, nose, and hooves. So this one was just white. It did not have any of those other albino features, but really cool, and cool to see it more than once too.
Yeah, and then the kids were just absolutely enthralled. Santa. That's a core memory achieved.
I agree.
Right there. Well, hopefully we've given you a core memory or two as well. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back here again tomorrow at the same time. You've been watching Wisconsin Weather Experts on Fox Local.